The quantum anomaly appeared over Geneva without warning. Dr. Elena Santos stood transfixed at her workstation in Ciorn's main control room, watching as reality itself seemed to twist and fold through impossible geometries. The massive hadron collider had detected something unprecedented, a cascade of quantum events that defied every known law of physics. "It's not one of ours," she announced to the room of stunned scientists, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "These readings suggest the anomaly is artificially generated, but the energy requirements would be—" She trailed off, the implications too vast to voice. That's when the message arrived, carried on a wave of quantum-entangled particles that somehow maintained coherence at a macroscopic scale. The holographic projection that materialized in the center of the control room showed a being that seemed to be made of crystalline mathematics itself, all angles and geometric precision that hurt the human mind to look at directly. "People of Earth," it began, its voice a symphony of probability waves translated directly into human speech. "I am Ambassador Nexus of the Quantum Concordat. We require your assistance in the most urgent matter our civilization has ever faced." Elena watched as her colleagues muttered among themselves. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization wasn't coming with the grandeur of spacecraft in orbit or radio signals from distant stars. It was happening in a physics lab in Switzerland, through quantum mechanics so advanced it might as well be magic. The ambassador's form flickered, a sign of what Elena recognized as extreme energy expenditure. "Our civilization spans 11 dimensions and thousands of galaxies. We have mapped the quantum foam of space-time itself. And yet, we face extinction at the hands of an entity we cannot comprehend or combat." General Sarah Chen, who had arrived with unprecedented speed from NATO headquarters, stepped forward. "What kind of threat could possibly challenge a civilization as advanced as yours?" "We call it the Probability Eater," Nexus responded, its crystalline form dimming. "It devours quantum superpositions, collapses wave functions permanently. Entire star systems are being locked into single, immutable states. It's erasing possibility itself." Elena's mind raced with the implications. A being that could manipulate quantum probability at a cosmic scale would be able to determine the outcome of any event before it happened. Perfect predictability meant perfect control. "But why come to us?" Elena asked. "Earth hasn't even achieved quantum supremacy in our computing." The ambassador's form brightened momentarily. "That is precisely why we need you. Your minds, human consciousness, operate in a way that defies quantum prediction. Your decisions, your creativity, your very thoughts exist in a state of probability that even we cannot fully map. You are chaos incarnate." General Chen's expression hardened. "You're saying this entity can predict and control everything except humans. That seems convenient." "Not convenient," Nexus corrected. "Terrifying. Your species possesses something we engineered out of ourselves eons ago in our quest for quantum perfection. The ability to truly choose, to create genuine novelty in the universe. We need that power now more than ever." Elena looked at the quantum readings again, seeing them with new eyes. The ambassador's presence was causing minute but measurable fluctuations in local quantum fields. She could only imagine what the probability eater's effect would look like on these instruments. "If we help you," she said carefully, "what's to prevent this entity from simply coming to Earth and doing to us what it's doing to your civilization?" "It already is," Nexus replied, projecting a new hologram showing a wave of quantum collapse spreading through nearby galaxies. "Earth lies in its path. You have perhaps 3 of your years before it arrives. We offer in exchange your unique capabilities for our technology. Together, we might find a way to preserve possibility itself." General Chen and Elena shared a look. Humanity's first contact with alien life wasn't bringing promises of enlightenment or threats of conquest. Instead, it was offering a desperate partnership to save the very nature of choice and chance in the universe. "I'll need to contact our governments," Chen said, already reaching for her secure phone. This isn't a decision we can make unilaterally. Of course, Nexus agreed, but know that time behaves differently when probability itself is under attack. Even now, the entity's influence reaches toward your world. Every moment we delay, more possibilities die. Elena turned to her computer, fingers flying over the keyboard as she began documenting everything. Their civilization had mere years to prepare for an encounter with something that could control the very fabric of reality. Yet somehow, human unpredictability, the very thing that had frustrated scientists like her for centuries, might be their salvation. The quantum anomaly pulsed overhead, a reminder that the universe was stranger and more dangerous than humanity had ever imagined. But perhaps that was fitting. After all, what could be more unpredictable than humanity rising to defend the very concept of possibility itself? 6 months after first contact, the Quantum Research and Defense Initiative's headquarters buzzed with an energy that bordered on chaos. Dr. Elena Santos walked past rows of hybrid workstations where human scientists worked alongside holographic projections of their Concordat counterparts, trying to merge two radically different approaches to understanding reality. The central chamber housed their greatest achievement and their greatest source of frustration. The massive quantum consciousness scanner, built with Concordat technology but modified to interface with human minds, took up most of the room. Its crystalline structures pulsed with possibilities, each facet showing a different potential future. "Run it again," Elena called out to her team. On the testing platform, Maya Patel, a promising young artist from Mumbai, closed her eyes in concentration. The quantum scanner hummed to life, attempting to predict her next action. The holographic display showed thousands of probability streams, each representing a possible choice Maya might make. But as she began to paint on the quantum-sensitive canvas before her, something remarkable happened. New possibilities appeared that the scanner hadn't predicted, impossible colors and patterns that emerged from genuine creativity rather than quantum probability. Ambassador Nexus materialized beside Elena, its crystalline form reflecting the chaotic energy patterns. Fascinating. Even after months of study, your species continues to defy our models. The quantum uncertainty in human consciousness is not just random noise. It's generative. Elena nodded, watching as Maya's artwork literally rewrote local quantum states. We're starting to understand why. Human creativity doesn't just choose between existing possibilities. It creates entirely new ones. Each brushstroke Maya makes introduces new quantum states that your predictive models couldn't account for. General Chen entered the chamber, accompanied by Dr. Marcus Wong, their lead quantum physicist. "The defensive applications are promising," Chen announced, pulling up data from their latest tests. "When our volunteers focus on creative tasks, art, music, even creative writing, they generate quantum interference patterns that the probability eater can't easily collapse." "But it's not enough," Marcus added, his expression grim. "Individual human consciousness creates beautiful noise in the quantum field, but the entity operates on a cosmic scale. We need to find a way to amplify this effect." Elena walked to another station where volunteers were testing different forms of creative expression. A jazz quartet's improvised music was generating spectacular quantum fluctuations. A dance troupe's spontaneous movements created patterns that even the Concordat's most advanced computers couldn't predict. A group of children playing make-believe spawned entire new probability cascades. "Maybe we're thinking about this wrong," Elena said slowly, an idea forming. "We've been trying to weaponize human consciousness to turn our creativity into a defensive shield. But what if that's too predictable?" Ambassador Nexus's form shifted, showing interest. "Explain." "The probability eater works by collapsing quantum states into certainty, right? It removes possibility itself. But human creativity doesn't just choose between existing possibilities. It generates new ones. What if instead of trying to defend against the collapse, we actively create more possibilities than it can possibly collapse?" Maya had finished her painting. a swirling masterpiece that somehow captured the very essence of quantum uncertainty. The scanner's readings were off the charts, showing probability structures that shouldn't have been possible. A quantum creativity cascade, Marcus breathed, catching on to Alina's idea. If we could coordinate enough human creative expression, amplify it through your technology, we might be able to overwhelm its ability to collapse probability, General Chen finished. Fight deletion with creation. Ambassador Nexus's form pulsed with what Alina had learned to recognize as excitement. This approach is characteristically human. To combat an entity that destroys possibility by simply creating more possibilities than it can handle. It's beautifully illogical. Alina watched as Maya started a new painting, each brushstroke a defiance of quantum prediction. Around the chamber, other volunteers continued their creative acts, each one adding to the beautiful chaos of human consciousness expressed through quantum states. We'll need to scale up dramatically, she said, and find a way to focus all this creative energy coherently. But for the first time, I think we might have a real chance. The quantum scanner's displays showed the ripple effects of their experiments spreading through nearby spacetime. Wherever human creativity touched the quantum field, new possibilities bloomed like flowers in a desert. It wasn't much, not yet, but it was proof that even in the face of cosmic certainty, humanity's gift for chaos might just save reality itself. Begin Phase 2, General Chen ordered. I want every artist, musician, writer, and dreamer we can find. It's time to show the universe what human creativity can really do. As the team rushed to comply, Alina caught Maya's eye. The young artist smiled, her hands already moving toward a fresh canvas. Sometimes the best way to fight the death of possibility was to create something completely new, something that even a quantum god couldn't predict. The first test of humanity's quantum creativity defense came sooner than anyone expected. A probe from the Quantum Concordat detected the probability eater's influence reaching toward the Carina Nebula, threatening to collapse the quantum states of over 1 million developing star systems. Inside the QRDI's newly constructed creativity amplification chamber, Alina watched as thousands of humans prepared for the largest coordinated creative endeavor in history. The massive dome, built with a fusion of human and Concordat technology, hummed with potential energy. All participants are in position, Marcus reported, monitoring the quantum field projections. The chamber had been divided into sections: musicians, artists, dancers, writers, even a group of improvisational actors. Each group was connected to quantum amplification arrays designed to project their creative energy across spacetime. General Chen stood at the primary control station, her uniform now bearing the new insignia of the Human Concordat Defense Force. Ambassador, are your people ready? Nexus's crystalline form shimmered with anticipation. Our quantum matrices are aligned to channel your creative output. But I must warn you, if this fails, the Carina Nebula will become probabilistically static. 1 million possible futures will collapse into a single, unchangeable timeline. Alina moved among the participants, making final adjustments to their quantum interfaces. Maya sat at the heart of the visual arts section, surrounded by quantum-sensitive materials that would translate her creativity directly into probability waves. The jazz quartet from their earlier experiments had expanded into a full improvisational orchestra. Remember, Alina addressed the assembled creators, don't try to force anything. True creativity comes from spontaneity, from the genuine human ability to imagine something new. That's what the probability eater can't predict or control. First contact with entity influence in 5 minutes, Marcus announced, his voice tense. The main display showed the approaching wave of quantum collapse, a void in possibility itself, spreading like a cancer through the cosmic quantum field. Begin primary sequence, General Chen ordered. All creatives, commence at will. The chamber erupted in a symphony of human expression. The orchestra launched into an entirely improvised piece, each musician playing not from sheets but from pure inspiration. Dancers moved in patterns that evolved moment by moment, never repeating, never predictable. Writers typed furiously, spinning tales that had never existed before in any probability stream. Maya's hands flew across her canvas, creating images that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human eyes could process. The quantum sensors blazed with readings that defied analysis. Entity approaching critical range, Marcus called out. Quantum collapse beginning at the nebula's edge. Elena watched the displays with her heart in her throat. The probability eater's influence appeared as a wave of absolute certainty, eliminating quantum superposition wherever it touched. But as it reached the space affected by their creative broadcast, something unprecedented happened. Look, Ambassador Nexus's form pulsed with excitement. The collapse is slowing. On the quantum displays, they could see new possibilities blooming faster than the entity could eliminate them. Every brushstroke from Maya, every note from the orchestra, every spontaneous movement from the dancers created new quantum states, new potential futures that hadn't existed moments before. It's working, Elena breathed. We're not just preserving existing possibilities, we're generating new ones. The entity's advance slowed, then stopped entirely at the nebula's edge. The wave of quantum collapse seemed to ripple with what almost looked like confusion. Faced with something it had never encountered before, genuine novelty in the quantum field. Concordat sensors are confirming, Nexus announced. The Carina Nebula's quantum state remains dynamic. You've created a barrier of pure possibility. The chamber erupted in cheers, but Elena noticed something else on the quantum readings. Wait, she said, pointing to a pattern in the data. Look at how the entity is reacting. It's not just stopping. It's changing its approach. General Chen leaned in to study the readings. It's learning. I thought that wasn't possible. Not learning. Ambassador Nexus corrected, its crystalline form dimming slightly. Evolving. This entity may be more adaptable than we anticipated. Elena watched as the probability eater withdrew from the nebula, leaving the quantum states intact but clearly preparing for a new strategy. Their victory, while significant, had revealed something crucial about their enemy. It wasn't just a force of nature. It was intelligent, capable of changing its tactics. We've won the first battle, she announced to the chamber. But this entity won't fall for the same trick twice. We need to keep pushing, keep creating. Humanity's greatest strength isn't just our creativity. It's our ability to innovate, to adapt, to come up with new solutions when the old ones stop working. As the creators began a second wave of expression, Elena shared a knowing look with Maya. They had proved that human creativity could stand against cosmic certainty. Now they needed to prove that humanity's endless capacity for innovation could outpace an entity that wanted to freeze all of reality into a single predictable state. The probability eater's response came 3 weeks after the Carina Nebula defense. It didn't attack with greater force or speed. Instead, it began collapsing quantum states and patterns, creating a predictable rhythm that threatened to entrain human consciousness itself. It's trying to force our creativity into regular patterns, Elena explained to the emergency council meeting. The holographic displays showed the entity's new approach, waves of quantum collapse that pulse like a heartbeat, each one attempting to synchronize with human neural patterns. Maya, now the lead coordinator of the creative response team, pointed to her latest quantum-sensitive painting. Unlike her previous works of chaotic beauty, this one showed disturbing signs of regularization, patterns emerging unconsciously in response to the entity's pulse. It's learning from us, she said, her voice tight with concern, using our own pattern recognition against us. Even when we try to be random, it's seducing our minds into predictability. Ambassador Nexus's crystalline form displayed patterns of deep concern. This is unprecedented. The entity isn't just destroying possibility. It's weaponizing order itself. General Chen studied the tactical displays, where the probability eater's influence was spreading in perfect fractals across space. We need a new approach. Fighting chaos with chaos isn't enough anymore. Elena had been working on a theory, one so counterintuitive it had taken her days to even consider voicing it. What if, she began carefully, we stopped trying to be unpredictable? The room fell silent. Marcus looked up from his quantum calculations with alarm. That's exactly what it wants. No, Elena continued, warming to her idea. Not completely predictable. What I mean is, what if we embrace patterns, but make them so complex, so layered, that they become a different kind of chaos? She pulled up footage from the chamber's previous sessions. Look at our most successful moments. The jazz quartet playing with the dancers, the writers collaborating with the painters. We weren't just being random. We were creating structured improvisation, patterns that evolved and interwove. Maya's eyes lit up with understanding. Like a fractal of creativity, each pattern spawning new patterns, each layer influencing the others in ways that even we can't predict. Exactly. Elena turned to Ambassador Nexus. Your civilization achieved quantum mastery through perfect order. The probability eater creates order through destruction. But humans, we create order and chaos simultaneously. Our art, our music, our stories, they're all built on patterns that we then consciously break and rebuild. General Chen leaned forward. How do we weaponize this? The next 48 hours transformed the creativity amplification chamber into something entirely new. Gone were the separated sections for different art forms. Instead, the space became a massive collaborative arena where every creative act influenced all the others. The jazz quartet began playing a structured piece based on the Fibonacci sequence, while dancers moved in corresponding spirals. Writers crafted stories using nested narratives that folded in on themselves like Mobius strips of plot. Maya and her artists painted scenes that evolved according to mathematical principles they intentionally misapplied. Entity approaching the Pleiades cluster, Marcus announced, monitoring the quantum fields. Same entrainment pattern as before. Elena watched the displays as their creative symphony took effect. The probability eater's regular pulses met something unprecedented, patterns that seemed ordered at first glance, but contained infinite layers of structured chaos. Look at the quantum field readings, she breathed. The entity's attempt to entrain human consciousness wasn't failing exactly. Instead, it was being drawn into the human's layered patterns, becoming entangled in structures too complex to collapse. It's resonating. Ambassador Nexus observed with awe. Your patterns are creating quantum feedback loops. The more it tries to impose order, the more it becomes trapped in your structured chaos. The main display showed something astonishing. The probability eater's influence wasn't just being stopped, it was being transformed. Areas it had previously collapsed into certainty began showing new quantum possibilities, as if reality itself was learning from humanity's example of ordered chaos. We're not just defending anymore, Maya realized, her hands still moving across her canvas in precise yet unpredictable patterns. We're teaching the quantum fabric of space-time itself a new way to exist. The entity withdrew again, but this time Elena saw something different in its retreat. It's not just adapting this time, she said. It's experiencing something entirely new. We're changing it. Ambassador Nexus's form pulsed with what Elena had learned to recognize as profound revelation. Perhaps that was the key all along. Not to destroy the entity or simply defend against it, but to show it a new kind of possibility. One where order and chaos aren't opposites, but partners in an endless dance. As the creative symphony continued, its effects rippling through space-time, Elena shared a meaningful look with General Chen. They'd discovered something profound about both their enemy and themselves. Humanity's gift wasn't just creativity or chaos. It was the ability to find harmony in contradiction, to create patterns complex enough to encompass both order and randomness. The question now was, would it be enough for what they all knew was coming? The entity's final desperate attempt to preserve its version of perfect certainty. The final confrontation began not with violence, but with silence. The probability eater's quantum collapse pattern simply stopped, creating an eerie stillness in the fabric of reality that made even the Concordat's most advanced sensors seem blind. In the creativity amplification chamber, Elena and her team watched as their quantum readings flatlined. The creative symphony they'd perfected over months continued, but its effects seemed to disappear into a void of perfect quantum silence. Its gathering strength, Ambassador Nexus announced, its crystalline form dimming to near transparency. Every quantum sensor in 11 dimensions shows the same thing. A complete absence of probability fluctuations across an expanding sphere of spacetime. Maya stepped away from her latest quantum-sensitive artwork, her expression troubled. It's not just blocking our creativity anymore. It's consuming it. Like a black hole of possibility. Elena studied the readings, her mind racing. The entity had adapted to their every defense, learned from their every innovation. Now it seemed to be trying something unprecedented, creating a zone of pure, perfect certainty that devoured even the structured chaos they'd used against it. "Wait," she said suddenly, seeing something in the pattern of nothingness. "It's not just gathering strength, it's showing us something." At her direction, Marcus adjusted their quantum sensors to focus not on what was happening, but on what wasn't happening. The display shifted, revealing an impossible pattern in the void, a structure of such perfect order that it made the Concordat's most precise mathematics look chaotic in comparison. "It's beautiful," Ambassador Nexus whispered, its form resonating with the pattern. This must be its true nature, not a destroyer of possibility, but a seeker of ultimate perfection." General Chen frowned at the display. "You almost sound like you admire it." "I understand it," Nexus replied. "This is what my civilization sought for eons. Perfect, absolute certainty. The elimination of all quantum uncertainty, all possibility of error or chaos. We stopped ourselves because we realized the cost was too high. This entity never made that choice." Elena watched as the pattern began to spread, its perfect certainty threatening to lock all of reality into a single, unchangeable state. Their creative defenses, their structured chaos, even their quantum technology, all seemed trivial before this vision of absolute order. Then she noticed something else. In the heart of the pattern, barely visible through the perfection, was a flutter of quantum uncertainty, not coming from their defenses or the Concordat's technology, but from the entity itself. "It's afraid," she breathed, understanding flooding her. "All this time, we thought it was attacking possibility because it hated chaos. But it's attacking because it's terrified of uncertainty, of the potential for change, for loss, for imperfection." Maya stepped forward, her artist's eyes seeing what the scientists had missed. "Look at how perfect its pattern is. Too perfect. Like a child holding their breath, trying to stop time because they're scared of what comes next." Ambassador Nexus's form pulsed with sudden realization. Of course, it's not just consuming possibility. It's trying to preserve everything in a state of permanent perfection, to stop the universe from ever changing again. Elena looked at the assembled humans in the chamber, the artists, musicians, writers, and dreamers who had been fighting chaos with chaos. They had been approaching this all wrong. The entity wasn't their enemy. It was a frightened god, trying to protect existence the only way it knew how. "New plan," she announced. "Instead of fighting its order or overwhelming it with chaos, we need to show it something else entirely." She turned to Maya, painted a picture, not of chaos or perfect order, but of growth, of change that builds rather than destroys. Understanding rippled through the chamber. The jazz quartet began a piece that started in perfect, simple harmony and slowly, carefully added complexity. The dancers moved in patterns that evolved so gradually you could hardly see them change. Writers crafted stories about the beauty of imperfection, the necessity of growth, the courage to be uncertain. Most importantly, they broadcast not just their creativity, but their emotions, their own fears of change, their own struggles with uncertainty, and their discovery that imperfection wasn't just necessary, it was precious. The entity's pattern of perfect certainty wavered. In the quantum readings, they could see its rigid structure beginning to pulse with new possibilities, not chaotic or random, but gently, carefully explorative. "It's responding," Marcus reported, his voice hushed. "The quantum collapse is reversing. It's learning to accept uncertainty." Through their quantum sensors, they felt it. The moment when the entity that had sought to freeze all of reality into perfect certainty finally understood. Change wasn't the enemy. Possibility wasn't a flaw in reality. It was reality's greatest gift. The void of silence transformed into something new. A quantum field that danced between order and chaos, certainty and possibility, perfectly balanced. The entity remained, but changed, its power now preserving the delicate balance between structure and freedom. Ambassador Nexus's form blazed with joy. "You did it. You saved reality itself." But Alina shook her head, watching as the entity's new pattern spread across spacetime, preserving possibility even as it maintained enough structure to prevent chaos. "We didn't save reality," she corrected. "We helped it grow up a little, just like we had to." Maya's final painting captured the moment perfectly. A symphony of order and chaos, certainty and possibility, fear and courage, all dancing together in an endless spiral of growth and change. Not a victory of one force over another, but a transformation of both. Humanity's gift to the universe wasn't just creativity or chaos, or even structured uncertainty. It was the wisdom to know that perfection isn't about eliminating flaws. It's about embracing them, learning from them, and growing beyond the fear of change itself. As the quantum readings stabilized across all 11 dimensions, Alina looked at her team of humans who had faced down a god with art and music and stories. They had done what no advanced civilization could do. Not because they were special or powerful, but because they were beautifully, perfectly imperfect.